expected. So how much of an impact will this measure have on not only Wall Street but Main Street? The hope again being that this sort of paves the way for something all sides can agree on. I say all sides within the Republican Party. This is still a Republican Party effort with Democrats left out. Now, they're complaining about that, but they have also, the Republicans say, done a little to advance this anyway. So we're going to weigh all of this now with former New York Congresswoman Nan Hayworth, radio show host Ben Kissel, and Fox Business senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino on the fallout from all of this. So, Congresswoman, to you first on explaining this ridiculous process you once worked in and knew well. Yes. This does what? This allows you, if approved, to move to what?
Right. This vote will say that senators are ready to debate the bill.
The bill, in this case, being what came out of the House.
Well, potentially what came out of the House, or maybe some other bill. Senator McConnell, as Majority Leader, can bring numerous bills before them to vote on proceeding. It's sort of like, okay, let's just set up a framework so that you guys...
But they have to base it on something.
Exactly. Let's do something.
So who would be against that, even if you're against a measure, right?
Well, you know, someone like Rand Paul has said, unless it meets certain strict criteria, I'm not going to participate in it in any way.
Now, he's hinted in the last hour or so that might be shifting a little bit, but where's this going?
Well, I mean, you have people like Rand Paul, as you mentioned, or Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin, who don't think the health care bill is conservative enough and does enough to repeal Obamacare. And then you have Susan Collins out of Maine and Dean Heller out of Nevada, who thinks it does too much. So there really are polar
Susan
opposites.
Collins is a guaranteed no on this. Even proceeding with adding amendments and doing this and making it subject to debate, she's against even that.
The divide is big, and the divide is for two totally different reasons, which is why this is such a difficult thing to push through. But you know, this is one of those situations where Donald Trump, it's a hard education and it's a hard learning process. And you know, from a business model, from a business-minded individual, this has to be infuriating. This, you know, sort of bizarre, as you said, archaic kind of process.
Yeah, you know, Charlie, let me say, if it goes down to defeat, they're not able to advance this.
Right.
I would imagine gains here would be reversed pretty quickly.
Probably. I mean, listen, we have good corporate earnings today,
Very
right?
good. Yeah.
So that's why the market is essentially up. If the market is trading on this, it's getting way ahead of itself. Listen, all you have to do is listen to Mike Lee, right, the conservative senator out of Utah.
Right.
He's on the fence still, even though they're thinking about putting his amendment, Lee amendment.
See, I don't think he's on the fence. I think he's playing coy.
Okay, so you don't think he's going to do it?
No, I think he will. He'll vote for this, but he's going to string him out.
I don't know. But I'm just telling you that this thing is very tenuous.
Yes.
And if you're betting that it's going to happen, you're crazy, because these people are all over the place, and the markets are way ahead of itself. You know, here's the real thing. The real reality is this. You know, we're saying that this must be driving Trump crazy. Remember, the central theme of the Trump campaign is, I'm a businessman. I know how to, I'm going to make your head spin on how great I'm going to be when it comes to, you know, corralling these, you know, herding all these cats.
Can you hold on to that brilliant thought? Mitch McConnell might be updating us on where this stands now in the vote. That could be just a couple hours away. Real quickly, we'll dip in here.
Solutions to the president's desk for his signature. Just yesterday, the president reiterated his intention to sign them. Just yesterday, the administration released a statement urging all senators to vote in favor of the motion to proceed so that we can, quote, move forward on repealing Obamacare and replacing it with true reforms that expand choice and lower costs. So I'd like to express my appreciation to the administration for its continued close work with us on this issue at every step of the way, from the President and the Vice President to Secretary Price and Administrator Verma, as well as so many others. The engagement we've seen has been important to our efforts, and it's sent an unmistakable signal to the country that this administration not only understands the pain middle-class families have felt under Obamacare, but is actually committed to doing something about it. By now, we're all keenly aware of the pain that Obamacare has caused for literally millions of families. Premiums have skyrocketed, doubling on average in the vast majority of states on the federal exchange. Insurance options have declined under Obamacare, leaving many with as few as one or even zero insurers to choose from. Many Americans now face the real possibility of having no options at all and could find themselves trapped, forced by law to purchase Obamacare insurance, but left by Obamacare without any means to do so. All the while, markets continue to collapse under Obamacare in states across the country. It's a troubling indication of what's to come unless we act. Fortunately, the American people have granted us the opportunity to do so. We finally have an administration that cares about those suffering under Obamacare's failures and a president who will sign a law to actually do something about it. We have a House that recently passed its own legislation to help address these problems, and we have a Senate with a great chance before us to do our part now. If other senators agree and join me in voting yes on the motion to proceed, we can move one step closer to sending legislation to the President for his signature. I hope everyone will seize the moment. I certainly will. Only then can we open up a robust debate process. Only then will senators have the opportunity to offer additional ideas on health care. Inaction will do nothing to solve Obamacare's problems or bring relief to those who need it. In fact, it will make things worse for our constituents all across the country. I'd like to reiterate what the President said yesterday. Any senator who votes against starting debate is telling America that you're just fine with the Obamacare nightmare. That's a position that even Democrats have found hard to defend. Remember, President Clinton called Obamacare the craziest thing in the world, and a Democratic governor said it's no longer affordable. You won't hear me say this often, but they're right. So I hope colleagues will consider Obamacare's history of failures, the unaffordable costs, the scarce choices, the burden on middle-class families as they cast their vote this afternoon. I would urge them to remember the families who are hurting under this collapsing law. Numerous Kentuckians, like so many others across the nation, have conveyed their heartbreaking stories with my office through phone calls, letters, meetings, and dozens of health care forums all across Kentucky. These families are suffering under Obamacare. They need relief. I'll be thinking about them as I vote to proceed to the bill today, and I know many other colleagues will do the same. Our constituents are hurting under Obamacare. They're counting on us to do the right thing right now. That means voting to allow the Senate to finally move beyond Obamacare's failures. That's what I intend to do. That's what I urge every colleague to do. We can do better than Obamacare. We have a responsibility to the American people to do that. Today's vote to begin debate is the first step, and we should take it. Mr. President, I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Without objection, clerk will call the roll.
All right, I don't know what a Kentucky version of Tony Soprano would be, but I think in the case of Mitch McConnell, it was an effort to remind his colleagues, I think it would be a very good idea for you to go through with this. What the senators are going to decide is whether to support a motion to proceed with this debate, not to come up with a solution or a sort of alternative to Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, but just to vote on a motion, a technicality, to allow that debate to ensue and then to add on some of the amendments that would follow. Our guests here were talking about who would resist that and who would be for that. We are getting confirmation that Senator Rand Paul does plan to support a health care vote removing a possible headache here. But again, on only a procedural matter. He is saying that there are many objections he has to the original House bill, to some of the other measures that have been taken up in the Senate. I interrupted Charlie Gasparino on this, but that's, one less thing they have to worry about.
Before we get the vote on, so they're voting to vote, essentially, is what.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. The point I was trying to make.
You call it voting to vote. I call it vote.
Debate, because
He's
the
making them
vote
to debate.
Right, they're voting to.
He's making them all three
to
can't
debate,
refuse.
yeah.
Right. That's exactly so. Congresswoman, what do you think of that? He's telling colleagues, look, this is. You can go ahead and do whatever you want to this thing, add amendment, whatever you want. But if you don't, if you reject this today, the opportunity to change anything goes away. Is he right?
Neil, witnessing this whole process is so painful. The president has expressed his frustration. He's expressing the frustration of the American people. This is exactly why you don't put our health care in the hands of the federal government, because this is exactly what happens.
So it doesn't matter whether it's from the right or left. Just,
right, every one of these senators.
They're trying to put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to do. But one thing I will say is, the point I was trying to make before is that the premise, or the central theme, I should say, of Donald Trump's presidency was, I'm a businessman.
Right.
I'm better than these guys. I'm going to give you a health care plan and make your head spin. I'm going to hurt all the cats because I know how to make the deals, right? Part of the deal. And guess what? It ain't happening.
Well, I think we're learning, it's very easy to set a hook in a fish's mouth. It's difficult to pull that hook out because all the barbs, you'll take the spinal cord with it, which is what's happening right now. But I am wondering.
Which is why I don't fish.
I don't like to touch the worm,
but the
quite frankly.
politics are going to get ugly down the line.
Quite frankly, there was a Fox News poll that came out recently last week, and I talked about it on Fox News Radio. Donald Trump is at 41%. Does he have the political capital to get this thing through? I mean, we watched his speech yesterday, a relatively normal speech, which was abnormal for this administration, kind of an interesting, bizarro world that we're living in. But at 41%, does he have the political capital to actually get this over with the Senate?
That's on the high.
That's on the high end.
I mean,
right.
Usually it's down 35. I don't think.
By the way,
so.
I'm sorry, Charles. I do want to be clear. The only confirmed no vote that we're going to get is someone who has telegraphed a no vote is Susan Collins of Maine. Now, keep in mind, when they had the repeal effort and the vote in 2015, she was the only Republican who voted no. So that's not a surprise, even though in this case it's only on a procedural matter here to continue the debate.
Okay,
There's nothing having to do with repeal here. But I'm sorry.
So think of what went on today. We have this big thing that we're trying to accomplish. Putting the genie back into a bottle, changing health care so it helps people, and ended the disaster that is Obamacare. Guess what we have? We have Anthony Scaramucci talking about Jeff Sessions. We have the president tweeting about Jeff Sessions. I mean, his most loyal advisor. I mean, could these two stop, put themselves in a room and just remind themselves? I mean, I think this is what.
To be fair to Scaramucci, he was asked that question in a radio interview, but you're quite right. It gets you off topic.
I've been seeing him on TV for the last 3 days. Where is he talking about the message of health care and why we need to do it?
Well, I don't know.
By the way, we should explain the latest that the president has said about Jeff Sessions in a tweet, that he has taken a very weak position on Hillary Clinton crimes, and this was on the heels of yesterday.
So he wants him to indict, go after Hillary now?
Well, the bottom line is, whether you accept or reject whatever his opinions are, it is a distraction.
Right, and it is a distraction from health care, and I think what the president's doing.
So why doesn't he just be quiet on it?
Right. Well, I think the president would benefit definitely from concentrating today on health care for sure, and concentrating on health care from now on. But one thing he is endeavoring to do is to put the whole Russia witch hunt in perspective. It's sort of like, hey, there is nothing that's going on with us. But look at what was missed. It's like take the log out of your own eye before you take the speck out of someone else's. There's a log from the Hillary Clinton campaign.
But listen, I'm not saying that Clinton. Listen, the reason why Hillary Clinton didn't get elected is because people thought she was too sleazy. I mean, a lot of people.
Sure.
She just ran a bad campaign. She wasn't in Michigan.
She did.
And by the way, Chuck Schumer said as much yesterday.
So think about what he
violated the Espionage Act.
He's saying she's worse than I am.
Well, but you know what? The American people want someone who's actually good. I think we're sick of this blame game, and we're sick of everyone just saying, well, they did it, so now we can do it, and everything is fine.
The Senate can save us all a lot of this trouble by voting on proceeding with debate today.
Think about what everybody's saying here. People voted for Trump because he was this great CEO. Which I can debate that with anybody that wants, because I don't think his business record was that great. He had some good parts.
This is why they hate you.
Right. But because you know what? I put it in perspective.
You're a hateful person.
But think about it. So because he can't get the job done, we're relying on a career politician and Mitch McConnell to get the job done. Just think of that irony here.
I will agree, Charles, in this respect that, and I don't know how you feel, guys, but that if the president, who's a very forceful proponent of causes he gets attached to, if he had been really 100% involved in this along the way, certainly he could have swayed a couple of.
I mean, we got to look back to 2016. He destroyed the Republican Party. Let's not mix any. Let's not mess around with that. He destroyed the Republican Party. He made a lot of enemies, and those enemies are coming back and getting a little bit of revenge. I also want to point out they just need 50 votes.
You're right about
Vice
that.
President Mike Pence. He's already had 3 tie-breaking votes in the Senate. We're only 6 months in. Herbert Walker had 8 the entire time under Ronald Reagan. Cheney had 8 the entire time under Bush. I believe Biden had roughly 7 under Obama. So the fact that we've already had 3 tiebreaks from the VP is quite astonishing. And he might have to do it again.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that's, I mean,
Right.
but let's get
Good
the
that we have
50.
it.
There's only one opposed right now. They can afford to lose only one more, and then it gets dicey, right?
And President Trump was elected in a very different way from any other
That is
Republican.
completely true.
But because he reflected the concerns of the nation, and he wasn't going to be able to break the blue wall unless he went to places that a lot of Republicans in standard procedure and standard policy would not be willing to go. And so that's something that we have to deal with now, and that's what we're
By
dealing
the
with.
way,
in the
we're
Senate.
also monitoring Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry, guys. Chuck Schumer, he's on. We're not going to go down to this here, but the Democrats are free, too, in this process to go ahead and approve this motion that will allow continued debate. And after that, assuming it passes, and it's a big leap, I should stress, but maybe not too much of one, given this Rand Paul maneuver now to say that he would vote for this. It would allow Democrats, too, to add amendments and provisos to something that could be a Christmas tree by the time we're all done. So it could get packed with a lot of goodies. That's what you guys used to do, right? You packed it with goodies, right?
Not I, sir, but
Everybody but you.
everybody but me. That's
All right,
right.
but that would be the process. So Democrats are very concerned here that if they're going to change this thing, and I'm Chuck Schumer and all this, I'm going to try to throw in my own amendments, right?
Well, he could certainly do that. Yeah.
I think the
But
Democrats
I
are going
think
to
they're
let
going
this
to. I
happen
think they're
and
going
let it
to. Right.
roll
They're
out.
not going to help.
See what happens.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's not politically in
They're
their best
opting
interest.
themselves out. Look, they got us into this mess because the Obamacare passed with no Republican votes, and they're not helping
and
us
this
out.
might likely
Real clear
pass
here
with
about
no Democratic.
we all hate Obamacare. We say how bad it is.
It works. It's
Okay,
bad
There
for
are
the American
some good
people.
things that it did.
But listen to this.
Pre-existing
Where
conditions.
is the outrage in the country for Obamacare right now? I mean, listen, the system before that was horrible.
Yeah.
He made it marginally more horrible,
Right.
but marginally. I mean, I'm just telling you that what the problem that the Republicans have, it's kind of like if you change this and it doubles down on it
Right.
and
Oh,
makes things worse,
absolutely.
you bought it. If you don't change
Right.
it, you basically you could be held accountable
Right.
for
When
it.
it
absolutely.
fails, Republicans are going to be.
This is like no win for these.
Well,
people.
that's why it was absolutely insane that Mitch McConnell wanted to vote on this before the July 4th holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, these politicians got to go to their constituents, meet with them, and let
It was.
I'm
to
not a
understand
fan
what
of
they're
this
going
measure,
through.
but I will say, maybe because of health issues, that coverage for pre-existing conditions, the way they want it, was a big bonus here and a
Sure.
big win.
Absolutely.
Obviously, what the behemoth they created to address that was beyond a disaster.
Listen,
but I do think whatever they come up with or whatever they look at has got to address that.
Neil, listen, I'm not an
And
expert in the insurance business. My dad died of a catastrophic illness. It hurt our family. It made us from working class to poor in a couple of years. But I will say this, just from a business standpoint, how do you guarantee pre-existing conditions and sell an insurance policy on that?
Well, that's just it, and that's what they're
I mean, how do you
discovering.
do that?
Well,
Just
And
from a
that's
business
enough.
standpoint.
Guys, I wish we could debate this ad nauseum. Unfortunately, we can't. Just to update you here, and